A border visit by Vice President Mike Pence. The stop in Calexico as the administration pushes its plan for a new wall.
They're trying to push them back to Mexican authorities and shirk their responsibilities toward these refugees.
Asylum seekers wonder what's next. Border officials say they don't have the resources to handle the hundreds of migrants hoping to enter the U.S.
It was crazy. It's like, it's not happening. I kept telling myself this can't be happening.
A horse facility that lost animals and property in the Lilac Fire rebuilds. Hear from those who still bear the scars from the disaster. And after resistance, the ruling today that could push Encinitas towards adopting a long-term housing plan. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Vice President Mike Pence rallied Border Patrol agents in Calexico today. In recent weeks, crews have been replacing a section of border wall. It's the first border wall project under the Trump administration, outside of the prototypes that were built in San Diego. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh was there.
Before a group of roughly 300 Border Patrol agents, Pence addressed the migrant caravan amassing across from San Diego over the weekend.
This caravan, like those who have gone before, is also rightly understood as a deliberate attempt to undermine the laws of this country and the sovereignty of the United States.
He called the migrants victims of activists and agenda-driven media. Pence's visit highlights a section of the wall under construction in Calexico.
We are protecting the American people by securing our southern border. And we are building a wall.
So here it is, the brand new wall. It's 30 feet high as compared to 18 feet high on the old legacy wall. It's going to go for about 2.25 miles and cost about $18 million. The president has pointed to this construction as evidence that his administration is making good on his pledge to build a new wall. In fact, this section replaces a section of wall that's 20 years old and had been in the planning stages for years. Pence also highlighted the National Guard. He says 250 California guardsmen are on their way to the border. They join nearly 1,000 guardsmen from other states already amassing along the U.S. side of the Mexican border. They are supposed to free up Border Patrol agents. Reporting from Calexico, right next to the Mexican border, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
While speaking to supporters in Michigan this weekend, President Donald Trump claimed San Diego is being overrun by undocumented immigrants. Today at the White House, the president was asked about his rhetoric on immigration and if it goes too far.
There's no reason to apologize. Our immigration laws in this country are a total disaster. They're laughed at all over the world. They're laughed at for their stupidity. And we have to have strong immigration laws. So I think if I apologize, it wouldn't make 10 cents worth of difference to them. There's nothing to apologize for. We have to have strong immigration laws to protect our country.
A caravan of more than 200 Central American migrants are still waiting to ask for asylum at the border. U.S. officials said Sunday the San Diego ports of entry had reached capacity. President Trump told Homeland Security not to let the caravan enter, but U.S. Customs and Border Protection says the agency will process people as space becomes available. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero has more.
It started as a festive day for the caravan, with asylum seekers and their supporters rallying on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border fence between San Diego and Tijuana. About a dozen on the Mexican side climbed to the fence and sat on it, chanting with U.S. supporters. Reina Isabel Nerio Rodriguez is one of the asylum seekers who came fleeing violence in El Salvador with her 2 grandsons.
I'm very happy and grateful for everyone who has helped us until this moment.
But just before they arrived at the border, U.S. Customs and Border Protection announced that the San Diego ports of entry had run out of space and resources to process more people. The caravan heard the news but marched to the San Ysidro port of entry anyway. They were met by the Mexican Army, federal police, and immigration officials who stopped them in their tracks. Brian Griffey of Amnesty International was there. He says he's disappointed with the U.S. government.
They're trying to push them back to Mexican authorities and shirk their responsibilities toward these refugees, for some of whom it may not be safe to be here. Some of them may not have valid status to remain in Mexico.
Nerio Rodriguez says she's not daunted by the prospect of having to wait after everything she's been through.
We're here. The good thing is we arrived here. The fight is not over.
The group set up camp outside the port of entry, planning to stay there until U.S. officials could process them. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Officials say some members of the caravan entered the U.S. illegally last week. PBS NewsHour is also covering the story of the asylum seekers in Tijuana and the response from the Trump administration. PBS NewsHour airs at 7 right here on KPBS. Organizers of a plan to repeal the recent gas tax increase say they have more than 200,000 signatures in San Diego County alone. Those signatures were submitted today at the Registrar of Voters. Supporters of the initiative say they have more than enough signatures to qualify for the November ballot. The increase to annual vehicle fees would also be repealed. Money from the increases is being used for road repairs and other projects. One of the most competitive local races in the June 5th primary is for the District 4 seat on the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. District 4 stretches from southeastern San Diego to La Jolla. It includes the region's greatest concentration of homelessness downtown. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen takes a look at where the candidates stand on housing and homelessness.
My name is Omar. I'm running for the County Board of Supervisors. It's a sort of local government that deals with homelessness, mental health, children's issues, seniors, and there's an election on June 5th.
Omar Passons is greeting people at a fundraising event downtown. He's one of 4 Democrats running for District 4 County Supervisor.
Enjoy your beers. Appreciate your time.
He has a personal connection to homelessness and county social services. Passons grew up in the county's foster care system. His biological mother was mentally ill and homeless. He didn't connect with her until his late 20s.
And she wrote me a letter, as best she could, and it asked me to go and say thank you to the people that had helped her at the Neil Good Day Center. And I remember getting out of my car and looking around at the trash and the sort of needles and the despair in people's faces and thinking this was her reality.
Passons is now a land use attorney and previously worked for the federal government, evaluating public health and social service programs. He has detailed plans for housing and homelessness that involve more funding for low-income housing and homeless outreach staff.
And over the course of the last decade, I just realized that there's only so much that philanthropy and so much that social service can do. We need our government entities to support better, to change the system of support in important ways.
My name is Nathan Fletcher, and I'm running for the Board of Supervisors. My life has been focused on service.
Fellow Democrat Nathan Fletcher teaches political science at UC San Diego. He's a former assemblyman and a Marine veteran. He says the county has misplaced budget priorities, pointing to current Supervisor Ron Roberts' offer of $150 million in county funds to help pay for a new Chargers stadium.
But they had $150 million to build something in San Diego. But then when it came to tackling affordable housing, they said, we have a tiny fraction of that to tackle affordable housing. So we called for the creation of a $150 million renewable housing trust fund to really invest in some of these affordable housing projects, to invest in some of these density type things we can do to really increase the supply and availability of housing.
My name is Bonnie Dumanis. I'm the former district attorney here in San Diego County.
Bonnie Dumanis is the only Republican in this race. She says as DA, she often had to deal with issues of mental health and substance abuse because they hadn't been dealt with by the county.
The 2 biggest areas in the county for budget are public safety and health and human services, and they intersect. And obviously, we want to keep San Diego safe. Public safety is number 1. But we have a homeless issue that I have ideas for, that I know I can implement because I have implemented these ideas in the context of the criminal justice system.
Dumanis proposes creating mental health crisis centers.
Each room is about 200 square feet.
Where family members or law enforcement could drop off individuals for short periods of time and connect them with longer-term treatment.
Growing up in San Diego, I have an appreciation of what we've lost.
Lori Saldana is a former Democratic Assemblywoman and a current instructor in the Community College District. She hasn't put forward detailed written policy proposals like some of the other candidates, but says the county needs to start addressing homelessness with more data and education.
We need an inventory. We need to understand how many units we have that are at risk of development and losing our affordable housing that we currently have in stock. And we need some hearings to listen to people who have wound up on the streets to understand what do they need. You can write all the plans you would like, but if you don't have the insights from hearing from the people who are currently homeless, understanding how they got there, how do you know that that plan will be effective?
I'm very big on outreach. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening.
A fifth candidate in the race is retired Deputy Fire Chief Ken Malbrough. He says the county can't look at help for the homeless as just helping individuals.
It's actually a win for all of us. It means jobs. It means opportunities for businesses. So it's an opportunity for all of San Diego.
You can read more about all the candidates for District 4 Supervisor at kpbs.org. If no candidate gets an outright majority of the vote on June 5th, the top two finishers will compete in a November runoff. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
During this election season, our media partner iNewsSource will be following the money. Here with the latest campaign cash report in the District 4 Supervisor's race is iNewsSource reporter Jill Castellano.
Former State Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher has raised $140,000 since January for the seat to replace Supervisor Ron Roberts, who is termed out. That's more money than the other four candidates running against him. Bonnie Dumanis, who used to be San Diego County's district attorney, has raised the second most cash with a total of $85,000. Dumanis and Fletcher faced off 6 years ago in the San Diego mayor's race, but both of them lost. The other three candidates in the District 4 Supervisor's race, Omar Passons, Lori Saldana, and Ken Malbrough, have each raised less than $61,000. To learn more about the money behind this year's county elections, go to iNewsSource.org. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Jill Castellano.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. As the June primary nears, KPBS News will continue to reach out to candidates. You can see more of our election coverage at kpbs.org. A big change in the weather is expected tomorrow, with cooler temperatures, rain, and a chance of thunderstorms. Erin Calandra has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed your day today. It was pretty nice and probably the nicest day that we're going to see for the next day or two. We do have a storm heading in our direction. You can see right now San Diego County clouds are kind of pushing in here off the coast. We actually have a low pressure system that is driving a cold front to the south. And with that, we're going to see some gustier winds, some showers, and even some thunderstorms. For tonight in the metro, it's going to be 57 degrees, mostly cloudy, but we are also going to see a couple of showers popping up here or there. So San Diego should stay mainly dry, but Chula Vista expects some showers around 55 degrees. Some showers in Oceanside, also in Mount Laguna. Temperatures there chilly, 38. It's going to stay dry in Ramona at 47 degrees tonight. Now here is that big jet stream that is dipping down to the south, and with that again cold air, gustier conditions, and showers, thunderstorms. And look at this, we could even see some small hail on Tuesday and a little bit of lightning too. So here we are with tomorrow's forecast. Everyone except for the deserts essentially are going to see some sort of rain and thunderstorms. Along the coast you'll hear some rumbles of thunder. Oceanside 62, San Diego as well, and Chula Vista coming in at 60 degrees. The further inland you go, well, we still expect to see some spotty showers, but Borrego Springs is going to stay pretty dry and sunny. Mount Laguna, check out those flurries. Could see a couple of those popping up. So on Tuesday along the coast, a shower, maybe a thunderstorm. And then on Wednesday, we still expect to see some thunder showers. Not as gloomy of a day, though. And then on Thursday, it's going to be turning sunnier. And temperatures will be a bit warmer for the weekend with sunshine in those mid-70s. On Tuesday in the interior areas, again, inland, expect to see a thunderstorm and even small hail as a possibility. Thunder showers still on Wednesday. And then it starts to dry out, sunny conditions, and it's going to be warmer for the weekend in the 80s. In the mountains, could see a touch of snow Tuesday and Wednesday. Not enough to cause problems, but then it's going to be drier and sunny and warmer. And in the deserts, well, it's going to be a bit windy, but staying dry and hot, reaching the 90s by the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
The small amount of rain in San Diego this morning won't put much of a dent in our deficit. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy tells us our rainy season is wrapping up and the long-term forecast offers little hope for relief.
San Diego County is in the grips of an unprecedented dry year.
So far this water year, we've received 3.19 inches of rain. That puts us well behind, about 7 inches below where we should be for this time of year.
Brett Albright is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. He says just 3 decent storms have moved through the county since January, following a bone-dry fall.
We had one towards the start of January, another one in February, and then a little bit in March, with some kind of little spits in between.
He says the month of May marks the start of a 6-month drying out period. Rain from May through October typically measures 1/4 to 1/2 inch.
That would be enough to push us away from our driest year on record, but it won't be enough to make any real dent in potential fire season.
Albright says the lack of storm systems can be blamed on high pressure patterns and a La Nina condition. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
CAL FIRE is reporting 4 people were hurt this afternoon in a helicopter crash. The incident was reported around 1:30. CAL FIRE says a helicopter went down east of Borrego near the Borrego Air Ranch airstrip. First responders say the 4 people inside the helicopter escaped with minor injuries. Sheriff's deputies had to search the barren terrain for a while before locating the downed aircraft. Those who lived through the Lilac Fire at the San Luis Rey horse training facility are still haunted by the scenes they witnessed more than 4 months ago. As stable owners raced to save valuable thoroughbreds, more than 40 horses died. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman went back to the community where more than 400 horses and their trainers are recovering.
It was like hell came to town. You know, you saw things that you don't want to see ever again.
When the Lilac Fire spread to the San Luis Rey Training Center, it hit Joe Herrick's barn first.
Got one horse out, got the lead pony out. I'm getting another horse out, and this fire ball came over the wall and hit us as we were going out of the stall. And I heard my hair go just like burn, and I felt all this pain hit me, you know, when I got burned.
Herrick had 8 horses he was trying to rescue, including a filly named Lovely Finish.
Right after I got lit up, I was like, am I still on fire? You know, I didn't know if I was still. And she took off, and I looked, and I was just like smoldering and smoking. And so I grabbed the hosed myself down and tried to get back in.
Herrick was badly burned on his face, arms, and back.
I ran right by the fireman who said, hey, stop him. There's a burn victim. We got to stop him. We got to stop him. And I'm like, I'm running after my horses. You guys have no shot at stopping me.
6 of Herrick's horses died in the fire. His barn was right next to Pierre Balloc's, who could see the fire spreading.
The fronds were just shooting out of the palm trees like missiles everywhere into the barns, into thing, and I knew that was a recipe for disaster. And
Ballock and his wife Martine had 6 horses when their stable went up in flames.
And everything was just burned to the ground. You know, within minutes. It was a bad scene, very bad scene.
Ballock's wife was badly injured in the fire, receiving burns on over 60% of her body.
And I found her sitting on the dirt there, in really bad shape, you know, burnt and The only thing she could say was Billy, which was the name of that horse that we were trying to save.
Billy and another one of the Balak's horses did not survive.
It was a horrifying scene. He was burnt to a crisp, and his legs were half burnt, burnt out, all four legs. It was the most horrifying thing I'd ever seen.
We did fight it, like I said, we have 5 water trucks, 3 can fight fires, plus with Cal Fire Department.
San Luis Rey General Manager Kevin Habel says they've been through fires before, but nothing like this one.
It was crazy. It's like, it's not happening. I kept telling myself, this can't be happening.
He says once the flames reached the stables, there was only one option.
Last thing you want to do as a horseman is let the horse out of the barn, especially an expensive horse. And then, because you're like, I can't let this thing out, it's going to get hurt. Well, alternative was, the barn's on fire.
After the smoke cleared at San Luis Rey, 7 buildings had been completely destroyed. 46 horses died and more than 400 were taken to the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club. For the last few months, people have been working together to rebuild San Luis Rey.
Well, we put our heads together and you saw the structures, which we call Pavilion 1, Pavilion 2. That's 248 stalls there. That was the fastest recovery that we can get barns put up.
Before the fire, the property had more than 500 palm trees.
But like Roman candles, they spark and go. So as you notice, we cut all those down.
Other safety precautions include storing dry grass and other flammables in fireproof containers. Still, the memory of what happened here haunts some.
It is cause for nightmares once in a while, and but you have to keep going.
Like, it started raining here today, and the horses started kicking the walls, and just, it brings back. You have those moments where it brings back these horrific memories. You get little reminders like that, but for the most part, you gotta press on.
4 months after the Lilac Fire, San Luis Rey is back open, and most horses are back to racing. Herrick's filly Lovely Finish is still recovering.
It used to be all pink and burnt, and now it's all, her pigments come back and her hair's growing back. And it's just taking some time.
Herrick plans to debut Lovely Finish this summer at Del Mar.
She told me, she was like, you better get me back to training before I kick your head off.
Matt Hoffman.
Good feeling.
KPBS News.
Yeah, she's...
Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is building his own rocket business. This is a test launch of Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket booster, Sunday in Texas. It's named after Alan Shepard, the first American in space. Blue Origin plans to begin space tourism flights as soon as next year. The finances of California's bullet train project are about to go under the microscope. The federal government recently announced plans to do an audit on the California High-Speed Rail Authority. Costs are expected to reach as high as $77 billion. Skeptics are urging Governor Brown to abandon the project.
We have said for 10 years this project is not viable, cannot be built, cannot meet the promises that they made in terms of cost, ridership, travel time, everything else. And so we'll see where it goes.
The federal audit will look at the Rail Authority's business plan and financial management. No word on when it will be complete. More than $3 billion federal dollars have been allocated to the project's budget. A judge has given the city of Encinitas another chance to agree on a housing plan that would allow for denser development. Encinitas is the only local city that has not complied with state law and developed a housing plan. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John has the story.
Developers and a group called San Diego Tenants United are suing Encinitas, saying it's impossible to find affordable housing and Encinitas needs to comply with state law. Today's tentative ruling is a victory for Encinitas, whose residents are determined to maintain the city's small-town character. Voters there have already rejected one housing initiative, Measure T, that took years to develop and would have allowed denser housing in some areas. Encinitas Mayor Catherine Blakespear says the judge has postponed a hearing on the lawsuits until after this November's election because the city's working on another housing initiative.
At some point, I don't think a court will allow us to be out of compliance with state law indefinitely. So if we have multiple plans that are rejected, I think a court eventually will order us to adopt a plan.
Blakespear says the city is working with residents to reach agreement on a housing plan to put on the ballot, and she hopes that this year voters will accept it. The city needs to find places to build more than 1,000 new homes in order to comply with state law. Alison St. John, KPBS News.
Tonight on the NewsHour, Israel's prime minister claims that Iran has been lying to the world about its nuclear program. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, election season is here and county residents and candidates sound off on what they want for the future of District 5. And on Midday, the agony and epiphany of losing the Nobel. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.